Meanwhile, US presidential candidate Hillary Clinton has been urged to cut ties with her own charity. Democrats say the Clinton Foundation has been putting her White House campaign in the headlines for the wrong reasons, and her party now fears there's too much at stake for any further setbacks. Here's RT's Caleb Moppin.
Seems like every time we hear about a new scandal involving the Clinton campaign, the multi-billion-dollar Clinton Foundation is somehow involved. Now, members of Hillary's own party are calling for her to distance herself from it, claiming there's too much at stake. This is what Democrats, not Trump supporters, are now saying.
There is so much on the table right now for the American people and for the future of this nation that extraneous issues, such as a foundation, if that is something that needs to be cut off, then it should be cut off.
Now, there are far too many scandals to get into here, but let's touch on just a few. When Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, Bill Clinton went around giving speeches on behalf of the foundation. The U.S. State Department directly approved his speaking engagements, which suddenly went from costing $150,000 to costing upwards of $660,000 for a single talk. Now, the donors to the Clinton Foundation also got marked as good friends of ours and got the privilege of face-to-face meetings with the Secretary of State. Bahrain, an absolute monarchy in the Middle East with a very problematic human rights record, seems to have been on Clinton's good friends of ours list. Furthermore, many of the foundation's contributors were from overseas. Donors from as far off as countries like Nigeria, the United Arab Emirates, and of course Saudi Arabia were paying up, and it's suspected getting favors from the State Department. Peter Schweizer documented the foundation's many shadowy activities in his book and online film, Clinton Cash.
The money that they have received often comes from people in places like Africa, for example, that have a history of corruption. So the question becomes, do you think that these individuals are throwing large sums of money at the Clintons and not wanting something in return, or is something else going on? I think it's naive to think that they're just doing this out of the kindness of their hearts.
Now, Hillary Clinton dismisses talk of foul play at her family's foundation, and her daughter, Chelsea, intends to stay on the foundation's board in 2017, no matter who wins the presidential election. Critics of how Hillary Clinton operated as Secretary of State are now asking, would she act the same with the Oval Office? Might appointments with the President of the United States be fast-tracked to the highest bidder? Caleb Moppin, RT, Washington, D.C.